Esse episódio é apresentado por Ultra Coffee. Performe o seu melhor nos treinos, estudos e trabalho.
Bem-vindo ao MTB Pass, um podcast que te leva para dentro do mundo do mountain bike. Eu sou a Viviane Faveri e a cada 15 dias trago aqui entrevistas com algum personagem do mountain bike mundial. E na verdade eu tô quebrando essa regra essa semana porque a gente vai trazer duas entrevistas em uma só com dois americanos, é o Christopher Blevins e a Hailey Batten. Quer dizer, Batten, né? Ou melhor, Leandro, como que fala? Agora eu já confundi tudo.
Oi, Vivi. Você sabe que quem é o cara da pronúncia do gregário é o Nicolas, né? Eu tava aprendi junto com a Batten a pronúncia no programa que tá no ar, a entrevista com ela muito legal, e eu fiz associação com Batman.
Então a gente tá falando errado, é Batten, gente, Hailey Batten. É mais difícil falar Hailey Batten do que Nicolas Sessler.
Sim, sem dúvida que é. Mas eu acho que vale a brincadeira e vale também lembrar o quanto que ela foi gentil com isso, né? Porque sabe que é um nome que pronuncia diferente, né? Ela foi muito simpática com você, né, Vivi? Esse é um ponto alto dessa conversa que você levou com essa menina que chegou agora na equipe do Specialized. É uma equipe forte para a temporada 2022 e chega com uma bagagem, né?
Sim, ela e o Chris estavam ambos na Trinity, que é a equipe do Alex Malacarne, e aí receberam um upgrade para Factory Racing e estão muito bem na fita, né? Ela, diferente do Chris, não tem nenhum título mundial ainda na categoria Elite, mas ela tem uma vitória em Copa do Mundo ano passado que, colocou ela nos holofotes.
Uma coisa que eu achei legal, Vivi, tanto na entrevista da Batten quanto do Blevins, é que eles moram em lugares que são templos do ciclismo, né, nos Estados Unidos, né? São cidades que são... Ele era vizinho do Ned Overend, né? Tipo, simplesmente isso, né?
Ele vem de Durango, no Colorado, que só tem monstro. E sabe aquele o racha da semana? Tipo, em São Paulo tem o Pelotão da Morte.
Sim.
Lá o Pelotão da Morte de Durango é tipo campeão olímpico, campeão mundial, lendas do mountain bike. E aí a molecadinha que consegue entrar ali no pelotão toda quinta-feira à noite volta para casa com medalha de campeão mundial, sorriso no rosto. E detalhe, né? O Blevins, assim, o cara surfa, ele faz rap, ele é meio artista, ele é muito talentoso em várias coisas. E ele se comunica muito bem, né?
Eu vou ser sincero que eu comecei a ouvir entrevista como, tipo, vou ouvir o cara que bateu o Avancini no Mundial. Ai, meu Deus do céu, que cara mala. E ele foi me ganhando aos poucos, assim, achei cada pergunta que ele responde, não fugiu de nenhuma das questões, né? Foi falando pouco a pouco ali, inclusive uma participação bem especial do Rafa. E eu achei, terminou muito mais legal. Achei que quem ouvir também vai ter essa visão do quanto que ele é um cara bacana, né? Lembrando que ele teve a experiência no ano passado do Mundial de Short Track que ele ganhou, teve também uma experiência no ciclismo de estrada com a Trinity, que é uma coisa que ele também fala dessa coisa de praticar várias modalidades, ele até dá uma cornetada de leve no Mathieu Van Der Poel. Esse ano ele está na iminência de correr o Equipe Epic, que prometeu que vai ter uma temporada mais focada no mountain bike, e esbanjou simpatia, Vivi. Eu achei que foi bem bacana o papo com ele, né?
Pô, fico feliz de ter conseguido passar isso pra você também, porque uma coisa é eu que entrevistei, saber o quanto ele é simpático e tal. O legal é ver que você, que estava cuidando da edição e de toda essa finalização do programa, também sente isso. Então significa que acho que a gente vai conseguir passar um conteúdo legal pro ouvinte.
É em inglês, mas não está difícil de entender. Ele foi muito claro e vale muito a pena ouvir o Christopher Blevins aqui, exclusivo no MTB Pass.
E a gente pode até combinar com o ouvinte que se ficar alguma dúvida, vai lá no nosso Instagram, manda um inbox ou comenta no post, porque às vezes é a dúvida de outras pessoas também. Fala, aquele trecho da entrevista, o que ele falou? A gente comenta lá e te ajuda a entender e de quebra é uma aulinha de inglês aí gratuita.
Vale muito a pena a aula e eu tenho certeza que se você ouvir o Blevins aqui no MTB Pass, vai soar muito mais familiar, você vai ouvir falar muito dele ainda no mountain bike mundial.
Com certeza. Hey Chris, thank you so much for saying yes to our request for the interview. You know, you are on a training camp with the new team, the Specialized Factory Racing. That's also big news. Congrats on that. And yeah, tell us how has it been this week so far? Lots of testing probably, and an interview request on your lunchtime on the last minute call.
Yeah, it's been great. Team camps are always very exciting, always very busy. But just bonding with the new teammates and staff, and being close to Morgan Hill, we've had a lot of good chats with the engineers and all of the good people at Specialized. So and it's nice, we're just a stone's throw from the water here, so we actually went out for a team surfing session.
Oh,
So yeah, it's been good.
do you surf?
I do. Yeah, I've lived in California for 6 years now, so
Okay.
I'm actually not the worst surfer in the world.
I have Raf Gagne here with me by my side, and he's gonna be here for a quick 5 minutes, and it's a great addition because he's actually a fan of you, Chris. And when I told him I was gonna interview you, he went right away like, okay, like I admire this athlete. I know he's a hard worker, and he actually suggested some questions, and I told him, well, it would be awesome if you could actually ask him in person, so I will pass the mic to him.
All right. Well, first off, yeah, I always had a huge amount of respect for Chris. We kind of crossed path in my later part of career, younger part of your career, but I think you won your first US Cup in like 2017 or something like this, and then like the next year you were second at World Champ as a U23, and then I thought you were gonna race me at Pan Am 2019. So I had identified you as one of the top contender at altitude there.
Ooh.
But maybe fortunately for me, you were still racing U23.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go with one big question for Chris. You won the cross country short track last year in Val di Sole in a beautiful manner. Like I know you as a racer, I know your potential. You were up there, so you do have the top end fitness, and then you delivered an amazing last lap attack, not a sprint, but almost won as a sprint. But would you say that when you win a race like we saw you win, it's your huge engine that takes care of this and it allows you to have so much speed at the end? Or it's more like, are you the big engine with a bit of speed, or are you just like kind of a big engine but with so much speed?
Yeah.
For me, you're
question.
both. Like you have all those cards.
No, I totally know where you're coming from. First of all, thank you for those words about kind of jumping into the scene in kind of the later years of your career, and it was really cool for me to have pros like you to kind of try to emulate as a first year under 23. And my first year under 23 was Todd Wells's last, and there were people like you and Todd at the US Cups, and that was like the best entry into the pro ranks that I could ask for. But yeah, short track worlds was it was kind of one of those things where everything just lined up, and you can't really run it back in my head and say like, oh, it was this moment that made it work. But it was a combination of like all of the different things I did in training, and I've learned as a racer and a tactician of sorts. Like, no doubt I used some of my BMX skills that I had from a couple almost over a decade in BMX to like know how to position myself, fight for position, and then deliver in that sprint. Like, that was absolutely BMX skills. But also, like, this was late in the year. We had a ton of racing, obviously, up to Tokyo. And I think all of the work I did in the winter, which really was building a big engine, was still was still paying off come August when we had World. So I'm just kind of lucky that the stars aligned and I was like ready for it. But yeah, I'd say it's a mix of having a big engine and then just being ready for the day.
Amazing. That was such a beautiful answer, but like such a nice. Your top end speed is amazing, and I like that you did the parallel like that. That was pure BMX and impressive. You talked about all that base that you built over winter, but didn't you do a bit of a Cape Epic World Championship that week in Val di Sol? Didn't you race like
Yeah,
all the possible races?
I did. Yeah, it was wild. Like I was really thinking of Tour Britain as kind of the focus of that trip. Worlds was like, all right, let me do everything I can and have fun with it. And I knew I could bust out a good result for short track, but I'd be lying if I said I expected I could win, or we're going to win. So, but I think that helped me, like having kind of the pressure taken off my shoulders and just going into every day, like, all right, it's another race day, like let's give it my all. That really helped me, first of all, have super opened up legs. Like by the third day of racing, short track, finals, I was ready for the punchy stuff. And then like the rest of the week and the beginning part of the week was all just such a blast. Like e-bike worlds was incredible. Team relay is always my favorite event of the year. And second in the relay, third in e-bike, and then first in short track. So
That's amazing.
yeah, it was a special week.
All right, I'm gonna let you with Viviane. She's the one for these interviews, but really,
But it's only because you need to go eat.
yeah, exactly. I'm back from teaching, coaching.
Well,
I'm hungry.
it's great to see you, Raf, and yeah, I hope we can cross paths sometime in person this year. But
Absolutely,
good luck with everything. Yeah,
like whether it's gonna be as a coach or as a fan or in Mont Saint Anne. So
awesome.
Just one thing that Raf forgot to tell you in person that he told me. He compared you a bit with Mathieu Van Der Poel and Tom Pidcock in terms of your engine and ability. And I want to go there and speak about multi-sport because you have that background in BMX, and I just learned that you surf pretty well. And what do you do throughout the year? Especially, were you able to do any other sports last year? And I just want to explore everything about multi-sport and what you're capable of doing.
Yeah, well, I think it's a hot topic in cycling now. Like people are rethinking conventional training models and realizing that racing a bunch of different bikes is sometimes going to make the best athlete. So, it really depends on the individual. Like there are very few people who can physically and mentally race as much as, Van der Poel and Tom and Wout. And, I think it's an amazing thing to do 3 disciplines at the highest level and be traveling all over the world throughout it. But there's a bit of, I think risk of burning out there as well. I mean, you've seen some injuries with those multidisciplinary athletes as well. And that kind of led me to decide not to race cyclocross this year. I really wanted to go to Fayetteville and race cross worlds, but I think the wise thing to do, especially as a young athlete, is have a more long-term approach and value the races you get, and also prioritize, overall wellness and listen to your mind and listen to your heart. So, and my mind and heart really kind of are in mountain biking at this point. So, I don't think that I'll be doing a lot of world tour racing. I definitely want to give cyclocross a go one time, but last year was unbelievable to do so much. But I think there's a lot in the mountain bike world that I can do if that's all I did.
How come you are so mature? Like, where does it come from? Is it your family? Do you have a coach?
Well, thank you. I definitely have a great family and had a great community in Durango to show me what matters, like in the sport and in life. And it was always about exploration, like of yourself and of your community through the bike. And I've learned so much from this sport, and I also have learned a lot from from going to school and having other interests alongside cycling. So, I've tried to kind of keep a balanced perspective. And now I'm just really grateful for where it's brought me in my professional career, and that, I just graduated college and I can race professionally and have a lot of support with it. So, yeah.
What did you graduate from?
Well, I graduated from Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo with a business and sociology degree. So it took me 5 years of school, and I was able to kind of split my time between the winter months in school and then taking the summer and spring off to race. So yeah, and it was great. Cal Poly is not a cycling school, so I had a lot of friends who rode, but the school itself had nothing to do with bike racing, and that was a cool thing to have friends who really didn't know what I was doing outside of class.
Yeah, that's great because you come from a town, a city, and an environment where you can train. You have everything you need to train beside you. You don't have to go to university with a cycling program in order for you to pursue your dream career. You can actually do something different.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Well, yeah, thank you. It's like, and like I said, as far as multidisciplinary, education is also an individual choice when you're an under 23 trying to make it in professional cycling. Like, I think there's no one size fits all model, but for me and, with my family, education has always been really important. So I knew I wanted to go to school independently of cycling, and I recommend that for a lot of young kids, but there may be others who want to just focus on cycling, and I want to emphasize that that's okay, and it's an individual process that you got to find out for yourself.
What makes Durango such a special place for mountain biking?
Well, I grew up a few houses down from Ned Overend, and would see Todd Wells on the group ride every week, and everywhere you go, your idols in the sport are also your neighbors. So like, it's a special community in that sense. And it's also just everybody's down to earth and has fun, and then kind of accidentally gets fast, like we trained without realizing we were training. And it's the same thing for Sepp Kuss and Howard Grotz and, Sarah Sturm and all the fast ladies as well in Durango. So yeah.
Are all of them with the same mindset that there is more than just the bike?
Yeah, I think so. And it's like, there's also a lot more to bike racing than just the results and, the kind of metrics that we place on it. Like, there's so much depth in riding your bike, and there's so much soul in it, like just to say that, and I think we grew up really feeling that. Like, the tagline for Durango Devo was never forget the feeling, never forget the feeling. And I think that kind of says it all. Like, the feeling of riding your bike with your best friends is something you can kind of cherish, and doesn't matter if you're winning a World Cup or just riding on the weekends, but chasing that feeling and remembering it, I think, has kind of been the biggest thing for me.
I was listening to the interview you did, it sounded like a conversation between two friends. Probably you guys are pretty close, with Payson McElvin. He's the host of his podcast, which is called Adventure Stash, which I love. I recommend. And you were talking about being nomad and traveling a lot, and that he asked you at some point, would you ever move to Europe? And you said, like 4 months is my limit, and I'm happy in the US. And would you say that that's the hardest part, to be away from home?
I think I see a huge opportunity throughout my career to grow the sport in North America and in the US. And it's really important to me to not just live in Europe and kind of neglect that. I'm sort of, and other people in my position are kind of the bridge between European World Cup racing and the US community. And it's important to me to race in the US, live in the US, have connections here. and from a career standpoint, that's why. And then the other side is from a human standpoint is, I want to spend time with my family and all my friends and my girlfriend and all of that. So, although I love, I had a great time living in, or not really living, but spending time in an Airbnb in Riva del Garda, Italy, and some beautiful places this past summer. But sometimes it's nice to unpack your suitcase back home.
Where is home right now?
I'm still living in San Luis Obispo, where I went to school. So I've been there for 6 years now, and I love it. The winter training really couldn't be better. So yeah, I'll be there for the time being.
That's awesome that you mentioned that you want to develop cycling in America, because I want to show the Brazilian community that it is important to travel, to race, to have the budget to travel and race, but you don't need to move to Europe. You don't need to absolutely be there all the time or do everything to be there. That's not all about cycling, right? There is also the what's happening in South America or in the American continent, and how much we can influence each other and grow and race again by racing against each other. And just supporting the community, it is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have such strong cycling communities, in North America and especially in South America. So, there's a lot of fans, there's a lot of people that love riding their bike. And I think that shows us that the opportunity is there to develop more races, on our continents, and have the Euros fly over to us and have jet lag for every once in a while.
once in a lifetime, it's not bad for them to have the jet lag. Talking about America, when I say Alex Malacarne, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, I love the kid. We had a lot of fun together last year. He has so much enthusiasm and so much heart, and he's going to be a really good bike racer. So I'll miss being his teammate on Trinity, but no doubt I'm still gonna hang out with him at the races. And I think we called him the Brazilian Rocket last year, and I think he'll continue to take off and win some races.
Well, he did Cape Epic with Christoph Saucer last year. That was huge and life-changing for him, and also for Christoph. It was so much fun. And now I hear that you are going for the Cape Epic for the first time, and it's gonna be one more continent that you're gonna race on. And how are the expectations for that?
Yeah, well, I'm really going there to win. That's the sole goal. And especially with Matt, who is trying to defend the jersey and knows that race as well as anyone now, if you're not named Christoph Sauser. So it's a big priority for the year. And I don't really kind of double down that often on kind of go like the one goal is to win, but that's really the truth here is we're fired up and ready to go for the yellow jersey.
Is that just already like you're surfing this week, but in a few weeks from now there's no surfing, there's like full gas racing? Do you get like the chills a bit, the butterflies in the belly?
Yeah, well, Cape Epic is the hardest race in mountain biking, so there's definitely like I'm eager for it, but there's some nerves of just what I'm getting into. But I know I'm ready, and I've done the training, and I will continue to this month to kind of visualize it and get ready mentally. So I'm really excited for the challenge. Like, even though it's something that I haven't really done before and is as hard as the Tour of Britain, for instance, that challenge of it is what I think allows you to grow. So
yeah. But are you coming to Brazil afterwards for the World Cup?
I'm not sure yet. I really want to.
We definitely want you here. We're gonna miss you if you don't come.
Yeah. Well, I definitely would too. I think I'm going to see how I feel after Cape Epic, and I'd be racing on 4 continents in a month if I did it. I'd go from South
Okay.
Africa to Brazil, back to the US for a couple races, and then for the World Cups in Europe. So
Because
kind
it's
of what I
sea
was
otter
saying.
after.
Sea otter is the same weekend. So if I skip Brazil, I'd be in the US and do sea otter.
Okay.
So yeah, I really hope if I miss it that this isn't the one year we're there, and I have a feeling it won't be. But we'll see. I'd love to be there.
We'll see. We're gonna be happy to see you win Cape Epic, but we're also gonna happy to see you race with the rainbow jersey on the first XCC of the year in Brazil. That would be so sick.
Well, we'll we'll see
No
after Cape
pressure.
Epic, but
Zero
it'll
pressure
be
from our
amazing.
side. What are the changes? I mean, how the changes on XCC affect you for this year as training or planification for the races? Because now we're gonna have a individual ranking for the short track. And
Yeah,
did you guys already go through that as a team?
we haven't really talked too much about that rule change in the short track specific World Cup series, but it's definitely something I have my eyes on, and especially being in the rainbow stripes, like I feel like that series is really something to go for. So it's exciting for the sport to have another discipline, and I think short track racing is so exciting for fans, and is deserving of more than just a start qualifier, start position qualifier. So yeah, it'll be exciting to see it develop, and hopefully it's an Olympic sport one day.
Wow, yeah, that would be amazing and definitely super doable. The format is perfect for the Olympics. Talking about that, okay, there is Paris in a couple years, 2024, for sure, no doubt you're shooting for that. But there is LA in 2028. You're gonna be younger than me yet, 31-ish. So that's definitely
Yep.
in something you're like probably did you put a post-it on your bedroom with LA on it?
Yeah. Well, I had a post-it note for Tokyo, and Paris is definitely posted in my mind now. And I think who knows after that? Like I've learned to really think in chunks, think in year cycles, and or a couple year cycles. So Paris is something I'm really all in for, and then I don't know, I'll be 26, and who knows what the world will look like. It's obviously changed a lot in the past 3 years, and will continue to change. So I absolutely can imagine myself, still being there and going for LA, but we'll see where the tides take us.
Yeah, there's so many things. That was such a wise answer. You are such a soulful writer. I wrote this before talking to you today, and I love how you spoke about mountain biking being a soulful sport. What is it a must for you to keep dealing with all the hard things about bike racing in order to keep your soul fulfilled? And I want to use an example because this really touched my heart, and I literally started like crying of emotion. Like that really touched me. Maybe it's just like I want to have your sister as my sister, okay? Like, can you borrow her for me? I'm not going to the Olympics probably, but I don't know. I can create something because she did the most beautiful surprise to you. And you had this video to watch before your race. It was a 45-minute video with messages from everyone around you in your community. I get the chills just talking about it. And you told me you were watching this video before not you didn't tell me, you told Payson on the podcast. And but tell me about it. And I feel like everywhere you go, no matter how far you are from home, they're there with you. And yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think I made a clear question,
No,
but
you really
it's
did.
there.
You really did. I hadn't thought about that video in a while, and I kind of feel a sting of tears when I think about it. So I appreciate you bringing that up, really. And yeah, like I'm just so lucky, so grateful for the chance I have in this sport and for all that it can teach me. Like we look so often in life, whether we're working in an office or in school or whatever, for like something where we can test ourselves in. And I think sport is that, like, it's a container for self-development and kind of soul development. So I've always just had that inclination towards finding the depth in what I do. And I think especially in sport, I'm learning more and more as I get older that, there's so much here, whether it's the people, it's the solo interval days where you're by yourself, or it's a fun ride with friends. Like there's so much we have to be thankful for with cycling, and I'm, just want to continue to follow that path.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chris, for your answer. And yeah, I cannot wait to commentate on you again, winning a race, or just being out there giving your best, because there's so much more than just winning. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed our conversation as well with the little visit
Yes.
from Raf.
Well, obrigado. And
That's nice.
yeah. And I love the Brazilian fans and what they bring to the sport. So if I don't get to see all the Brazilians in Petropolis for the race, then I'll probably hear the cheers from this side of the continent. So I think that's so important for the sport. And thank you for having me on. And yeah, I hope to cross paths soon.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Vivian. Yeah.